So I finally got around to watching Captain America Civil War, and I was kind of looking forward to this. The previous Avengers film I really enjoyed. The premise of this one sounded interesting, and also just Elizabeth Olsen. I love her. So I was really looking forward to it. And unfortunately, while there are some good bits about it, it's not great if you're not a Marvel addict or a Marvel fan. Marvel, as I'm sure you're aware, has this great tendency to make everything overly complicated and overly complex. And unless you watch the films again and again, or if you, say, watch a film and do a lot of reading around it so that all of these names and places and terminologies get planted in your brain, it's hard to keep up with what's going on. And there were a few occasions where I had to pause this. I was watching on Disney Plus, and Google a couple of different names of people because I couldn't remember who they were or what their importance was. And that's obviously important information to understand character motivations or reasons why the narrative develops in a certain way. And this one, more than probably any other film, I really felt that. And I guess that's because we're getting deeper into the Marvel universe, into the MCU. And I'm not a fan. I don't spend my time reading about the films. I spend my time reading about other films that I am a fan of. But, I wouldn't consider myself a Marvel fan. I haven't seen any of the films more than once, apart from Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's very difficult to keep up with if you are not kind of embedded in the MCU. But once I kind of got to grips with what was going on, it took me a long time to kind of once I finally got comfortable with what things were happening, they threw in some new characters and I got really confused, and I'm just thinking you're making this more complicated than you need to be, and you are alienating a lot of people. Nevertheless, once you get the gist of what's going on, it's relatively interesting. They're wanting to put the Avengers under government control because the Avengers have had free reign to do what they like, basically, and sometimes that has catastrophic results. And Captain America and Iron Man have opposing views. Obviously, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, but other way on. And I won't say which is which, just in case you haven't seen it. I won't say which one's kind of in favour of it and which one's against this overarching ruling. But I kind of thought that would be a really interesting concept and see what would happen to the Avengers and the other characters if they had very strong opposing opinions. But to be honest, once they throw in various different characters, and Chadwick Boseman is brilliant, really fantastic acting. But in terms of character, I don't care, not that interesting. It took a lot of the focus away from Rogers and Stark, and that's something that I personally was not pleased about because that's what I was looking forward to. I did love Wanda in this. I love Elizabeth Olsen, but I'm biased. There wasn't actually anything about the character that I thought was particularly incredible. I just really like Elizabeth Olsen, and I'm prepared to admit that that's biased. So the film as a narrative, I think, is terrible. It's a good concept, terribly, terribly executed. But, as is usually the case with Marvel, cinematically, it is stunning. It's very well edited, fantastic special effects, amazing costumes. I don't know how many stunt people they used for this, as opposed to the actors doing their own stunts. But whoever is doing the stunt work, incredible. There's a lot of work from Romanoff that I'm going to assume is stunt work, because I don't know how much Scarlett Johansson would have to be paid to do this kind of movement. But if it is her, absolutely fantastic. But her character has the most fluid movement ever. Whether it's her or a stunt woman, I don't know. But, choreography, incredible. Acting is obviously brilliant. Costumes are fantastic. Visually very beautiful to look at. Very striking images. Very well edited. And unfortunately, it's just a terrible story. A really interesting concept, but a terrible execution. And Marvel, for me, very much is often all style and no substance. Here they have substance, but they've kind of shredded it into a million different threads and made you kind of just sew them together yourself. And that's not really what a film is meant to do. A film is not meant to leave you with more questions than you go in with. I'm not done with Marvel. Maybe if I'd watched this at the time, I might have been done with Marvel. But because I'm trying to catch up and basically increase my knowledge base of some of the characters that are introduced more recently, I'm going to continue with Marvel. I'm not going to expect anything good, because Marvel films are written and directed for Marvel fans. They're not for the casual cinema goer who's never seen a Marvel film before. They are designed for people who have seen the previous films. And while I've seen the previous films, I've only seen them once, and that's not good enough for Marvel. Marvel kind of wants you to fully absorb yourself in it, which is fine if that's what you're interested in doing. I fully absorbed myself in Tim Burton. Although he never asks to do that. His films never warrant that. But I do it anyway. Nevertheless, Captain America Civil War is a diabolical mess in terms of the narrative. But the cinematic quality, I can't really fault it there.